Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, June 5th. And our topic for today is confusion. Funny, Jeff and I were just riding down the street and I think we talked about 27 different projects and what happened and what's going on the beaches and how we should remodel this house and this hotel going up and these restrictions and all this. So what do we make out of confusion?
Here's the thing we make out of confusion is there's a lot of confusion, and there always has been, always will be, which lets me take the interview role back over here, this side of the table, because right now we're at an interesting time. The economy is doing extremely well. I think everybody can agree with that. Consumer confidence is high. Interest rates are still reasonably low. Talk about that in a second. Everything is good. Stock market's high. Real estate values are up. Yet you're starting to get that twinge in the marketplace of, is this the top? When's the burst? When's the issue? Interest rates. Oh my gosh, we had our sales meeting this morning and interest rates are in the over 5% now, 5.15%, right? So I started seeing looks on people's faces this morning saying, what the hell's going on? And so it's confusing.
When did you get the twinge first time?
When did
this cycle?
When did I, or when do I start noticing it?
When did you start getting the little twinge saying, hey, maybe it isn't all perfect like everyone says?
About 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, what happened? I just took over.
You just took interviewing back, but we're coming back to you. Inventory. Everything's inventory based, and days on the market, and how many months supply of homes, because that kind of drives supply and demand. So back to when you started in the business.
Okay.
Right? So anyway, that's the issue. There's no real issues. There's no new real indicators. But you've seen, when did you start in real estate? Let's start back there.
1972.
1972. That was even before I was even thought of.
We were thinking about you.
You were thinking about me?
Yeah.
Okay. So 1972 gets into the real estate business. What is the climate like then? What were interest rates like? Think back to that buyer market, seller market. It was listings the thing to have, or buyer things to have. You started getting into the business. What did you focus on?
You know, it's tough because when you deal with older people, you hear them talking about the past, and it's a bunch of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But the past generally repeats itself. And when I got into the business, I was a salesman for a company called Tarno Realty in Miami, and my first sale fell apart. It was $28,000, and it was because the people really needed help, and I wasn't good enough to give it to them. And then, so I kept on doing real estate, and then in 1974, we had a gas crisis, where in Miami, people were waiting 3 and 4 hours to fill their tank. And Miami Herald came up with an article that said 40,000 unsold condominiums in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. The condominium concept is probably not a valid concept.
Okay.
And it was a year or two later when all those condos were sold. And so that was the first hint of a recession, and people were going crazy because they said, no one's going to come into South Florida because it's a 7-hour drive from Georgia at least, and they got to stop for gas, and the gas crisis is here, and it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, we have interest rates. Some of the interest rates were at 18% to buy a house. And what happened was the creative people got into self-financing, and it didn't kill the real estate industry. Then
it shifted it a little bit.
It shifted it a little bit, and then 10 years later we had an S&L crisis where the banks were going broke, and then in 2008 we had the bank crisis with all the crooked banks and all the stuff, and the fact that nobody went to jail. And then the market in 2012 looked like, so we just went through like 40 years of stuff.
That's a quick little
but it was an up and down cycle of summer, fall, winter, spring. Sometimes when you go into a down cycle, it gives everybody a breath of air, and it allows the prices to get more normal, and then it builds back up again. The difference with this one is that it's been with phony money. So the twinge that I got was first in 2012 when I bought my truck. And then I said, you know what, if I became an auctioneer, then I could travel around in this truck and auction properties off, because everybody knows when the market is bad, when it's down, and a lot of properties are on the market, the auction properties really sell quicker.
And just for clarification, this truck is a Mercedes Sprinter van, Winnebago live-aboard camper with showers and bathrooms and all kinds of stuff. So if it really went to shit, you could live in it too.
Well, the other reason I got it was because I live on the beach and we have potentials of hurricanes. And last hurricane, we jumped in the truck and we drove to Tampa and we parked it in between a great big brick building and spent the night in the truck. It's very nice. That was the other reason for it. So it's, call it doom and gloom type atmosphere, but I've been around so long, I've seen these cycles come, and I don't want to make people afraid of them. They're great for the economy, they're great for the real estate agencies, because the number of agents get out of the business quicker than the market goes down. And then people need us. I mean, I love to help people with the best investment they ever made. Put a big ass smile on their face when they really get a good price for their house and they made, 50% profit over the last 5 years or something like that. That is really a fun thing to do. Now, what's going to happen the next downturn? I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I had said this morning in the sales meeting that all the disruptors, Century 21 was the first disruptor in the real estate business. It was a mom and pop business. You always went to your local realtor. And then we went in and said, hey, local realtor, you don't have to be local anymore. We're national but neighborly. Mm-hmm. You can go to Hialeah and get a listing now. Nobody's going to know that you don't live in Hialeah. And so actually we probably screwed up the industry.
Good job. But you did a good job with it though. Let's talk about rates, because we spent a lot of time in the sales meeting this morning talking about it. What kind of correlation do you see from the different cycles that you've been into? What happens when rate starts going up? What's the psychological impact? What do you see from the reality standpoint? And then how does it smooth back out?
Well, my whole career, the average rate was about 6 or 7%. People would expect to pay that. They paid that for 20, 30 years. There were blips up and blips down and all that. But this idea of 2% rates and negative interest rates and all, that's a whole new concept. So I don't really know, but I know that 5% isn't too much to pay for a house.
Right.
All right. And 6% is a little bit more. And as you said this morning, the house gets smaller that you can buy as the rates go up.
That's what we were talking about this morning. For those of you weren't there, but we were doing a simple analysis, saying if you're going to buy a house for today at 5% interest rates,
and
that's the size of the house. This is the square footage of your home. That's what you can afford today. As rates go up to 5.5%, your house gets this big. Rates go up to 6%, house gets this big.
That's even if it's the same price of the house.
Same, yeah, because your rates are going to go up, your prices are going to, your payment's going to go up, so you can afford a smaller house. Or in depending on what market you're in, this is the house on the nice side of the street. As rates go higher, your house is now on the other side of the street. Okay, so that's just from what you can buy. Now, from a seller, we were talking about this morning, I've got a rental house that I have, and I'm thinking about selling it right now, because the message this morning was, if you're even remotely close to selling a house right now, even if you said somewhere on your to-do list to this year, you got a piece of property you want to sell, you're stupid for not doing it right now. That was the message. And when I say the word stupid, it's pretty harsh, because here's why. because your buyer pool is this big right now to buy the house. And then as rates go up, what happens to your buyer pool? Fewer people can afford it. And then rates go up again, fewer people can afford it, fewer people can afford it. So if supply and demand has any bearing on the economy, which it still does, then it's going to be harder for you to sell your house because fewer people can afford it later, right? And then if you're going to be living in a house and you're going to actually move into another house, then the house you can buy today is this big and this nice, and then the one 6 months from now is this big. So if you wait 6 months from now, assuming interest rates go up again, not only is the house you're going to buy that smaller, but the buyer pool for your current house is this small, and then so your prices are probably going to drop here, and you're not going to be able to afford as nice a house there. So it doesn't make any sense at all to wait at all. So interesting thought process on that, but it's
the thought process
at the risk
is
of
very
being
valid through the last 4 recessions. I'm not sure it's so valid during this recession,
okay.
because this one is fueled by incredible bubbles in real estate, and these bubbles are high-end bubbles.
Okay.
I was in Prague and talking to a tour operator, and he said, "We're in a real big real estate bubble here in Prague." And I said, "Well, why?" He says, "Well, I'm 30-something years of age and I can't afford to live here because the houses are so expensive. I have to live outside." And
Take the train.
I said, well, where do you live? He says, "Well, I live with my parents." And I said, "Well, do your friends live with their parents too?" He says, "Yeah, because people my age can't buy anything." And that was in Prague.
Yeah.
And I know that London is $5,000 a square foot for properties, and I know there's $200 million dollar condominiums in New York, and I know what's happening in Vancouver and Toronto and Seattle and San Francisco and all that stuff. And I was talking to a guy that's a developer in San Francisco, and he says, "Oh, you're full of shit, Jim. That this market is not going to crash in San Francisco because it's the tech capital of the world,
And the Asian influx of money.
and Asian influx of money, and people are going to continue to buy at these incredible rates." But then your concept kicks in, and as if you're buying a $5 million house and that interest rate goes up to 7 or 8 or 9%, now you're talking about really serious money.
Yeah.
So,
But in that market over there, the $5, $10, $15 million houses are cash. They're not financed.
Yeah. Well, why are they cash?
Because a good harbor for...
Because the cash was created by governments and through corporations buying their own stock back to get their stock up, and then you and me buying stocks and making a profit as the business is going up. But when a corporation gets free money and they can buy their own stock back, it's probably better to use the money for that rather than buy new machinery and stuff like that.
Right.
So you got a huge bubble in the stock market also. So it's not going to be predictable, in my opinion, this time around, because there's so many outside forces that are involved. And just because of communication worldwide, instant communication.
Instant access to everything you want. Plus, how about the people that don't have to live where they work anymore? I've got a bunch of my friends work in Chicago and live here on the beach, right? Because they commute, they jump on an airplane, they go out of town for a few days every week or two, then they're back home. So then you have to look internal as to where do you actually live? Where do you actually work in our business? I mean, we're lucky we truly work in paradise. I mean, this is where people save up all year to come for a week. We get to live here, right? So when everything changes around, you've got bubbles that are insulated too. So if you're somewhere where people want to be, you're a lot of times not the first one to go down.
I think you just hit on a key, because people want to live where people want a vacation. All right, so resort areas are great areas to be. When you look at the flexibility that people have, mostly the young people coming up, that they can work anywhere in the world and do their job, and the only restriction is sometimes they'll have to get up in the middle of the night to talk to someone.
Right.
Well, what's it matter? So this is called Real Beach Talks. We got a real beach right across the street.
Yeah.
All right, so, and there's so little known by normal people about the beaches, like there are 17 communities on the beach.
And this, for those who aren't familiar with our market, we're in West Central Florida, the Tampa Bay region, on the Gulf Coast, on the Gulf of Mexico. 17 beach communities. How many miles stretch of sand?
27 mile stretch of sand with 17 little communities, and they're all different. And they can be developed into very, very more unique properties than they are right now. And we're doing that. We're involved. You and I were just talking about 8 or 10 of them an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the opportunity here and take what I say about bubbles, and people say, Jim talks about Vancouver and all it doesn't matter, I live in Florida. Well, if we take the same concept and say, well, people can work anywhere, so they're tech people from San Francisco, but they buy a house in LA, in Manhattan Beach.
Right.
Like your
John.
uncle has. All right? Your uncle has what kind of house in Manhattan Beach? A skinny little townhouse type single family lot on a 30-foot lot with a view, I hope he isn't watching, a view of
He'll get tagged on
the
it.
Pacific Ocean. And the pictures that I've seen, you'd have to look through electric lines to see the Pacific Ocean that's about 500 feet away. And that house that he paid $6.5 million for, he's turned down $8.5 million for. All right? And if you buy that house and you move it onto Manhattan Beach, it then
500 feet that way.
500 feet, it's $20 to $30 million. All right? Now you can buy a little townhouse on the Gulf of Mexico here for $1 million.
Right. On the beach.
On the beach. So if we look at the hyper-local thing about the beaches, and you say, okay, well, where else are there beaches? Well, the whole East Coast, but a lot of them are cold.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole West Coast of the United States, but that's cold too, and it's a lot more expensive. So we could argue that these 17 little cities along the Gulf of Mexico are the best buys in Florida. I can prove that.
Yeah.
But if they're the best buys in Florida, they may be the best buys in the whole country.
And one of in the world. Because what's fun about us, the brand is great, right? Century 21 does a lot for us, a lot of which is comfort and trust worldwide, right? So it's fun when people walk in or call in and they see our signs everywhere, so they know we know what's going on in the marketplace. And they say, walk in here and say, what's wrong with this area? And what do you mean, what's wrong with this area? How can you buy a house for $1 million on the beach? What's wrong? Right? And these are people just from the other coast, come over here and say, you guys are undervalued. We've got a project, deal going right now on a property, $32 million, right? And the guys over here are laughing, saying, you guys are so undervalued over here, you can't even imagine what this should be worth, right? And then I'm taking all of my money and my friends' money, and we're all coming over to this coast because they see the opportunities there. So that's the big dollar one. So one of the things I was thinking,
you know Reddington Beach because you had a house there. One closed 2 days ago for $7 million.
7 point, yeah, second highest in the whole.
Yeah. And that house was, remember we talk about the price of land and stuff, and the price of the land now is about $30,000 a front foot when we look at beachfront lots. And this was two 60-foot lots. And it had two houses on it.
Yep.
And the guy tore one house down and just left the first floor on, and then connected them. We call it the double wide trailer.
$7.9 million.
$7-point-something million. And I just heard stories about a pharmaceutical company owner bought it.
I just talked to their neighbor earlier today when I was getting my haircut. She came in.
Wendy?
No, Claudia from right down the beach.
Okay. All right, so this is an example of, and the guy, I know the agent that did it, and there were some major problems with the seller not doing what he was supposed to do. And the pharmaceutical owner said, I don't care, I'm just gonna close on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that type of money coming to the beaches is going to mean that the beaches are going to be more expensive. Right now, you have Naples and you got Sarasota and you got here, and we're by far the cheapest. When you go over to Miami, it's nuts.
So let me ask you a question. Let's talk about rational, real world here. Let's say you had $100,000.
Yeah.
Can you buy something on the beach?
On the Barrier Island, sure.
What would you buy? Now, let me make a disclaimer here real quick.
Yeah, big disclaimer.
Because we are not selling securities, we're not selling investment, we are talking simple, high level about simple overviews of real estate. So I want to make sure that's clear. We're not selling any securities here, we're just talking about bullshitting about real estate. So
yeah,
with that said, go ahead.
The challenge that we have is that people buy residential real estate out of emotion for their family or whatever. Investors buy real estate for a return on investment, right? Is it possible to do both? I think so.
How do we do that?
When we look at, I use this simple, boring thing that says, when you're going to buy a piece of property, about 10% of that money that you pay for it, if 10% equals what you can get for it in income, it's probably something to look at.
So let's simplify that. So if I bought something for $400,000,
yeah,
it needs to bring in what?
10%, $40,000 a year.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a simple house.
A rental house.
Let's take a house off the beach in Seminole, a $400,000 house. They got to bring in 40, and the guy says, I'm going to retire in 10 years. I want to rent it out. Okay, so 10% of $40,000, $400,000 is $40,000. So that's about $3,500 a month to rent a house. All right. Now that is, you got to figure occupancy, right? Because you're going to have renters that leave and stuff.
And you have annual versus short term.
Well, no, I'm just saying the guy is buying a house in Seminole. He can basically do what he wants to it, break the rules and all that stuff. But the point is that at $3,500 a month, he's probably not going to get that. On an annual basis, if he gets that, he's got to figure in a couple months out of a year that vacancies. Right. So the numbers don't work. And plus, even if he cheated and went on VRBO and tried to rent it weekly, who wants to live there?
Right.
But they'll live in a $400,000 place on the beach. And you have things like, people are starting to know this because the next place for migration after Pinellas County is the Panhandle.
Yeah.
And the Panhandle is nice, but it's a different climate, and it's 6 hours away by car. And most of it is vacation rentals, but it's vacation rentals for people in Georgia and Alabama and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's different climate. So vacation rentals down here are much more popular, and we'll get higher money because we have year-round that the weather's really good.
And you have another component that you need to consider too, from an investment perspective, is how easy is it to get there? Because you just tapped in the Panhandle. You don't have direct flights from Frankfurt, Germany going into the Panhandle.
No.
Right? You don't. And so our region, one of the things that's really helped us recently is the direct flights from Germany as quite a hub for Europe into Tampa directly. You used to have to go to Miami or Orlando. And then the last thing you want to do is wait for another plane to transfer you over to Tampa, right? So that's why Miami blew up so well and Orlando blew up so well, and Tampa Bay area and Sarasota even is harder to get to.
Oh, and the airport in Miami in Tampa being redone. It's one of the best airports in the world.
Plus, we just got directs from San Francisco and San Diego and LA, right?
So we have all these different places, Tampa and St. Pete, feeding our beaches.
Mhm.
Plus, we have Orlando feeding our beaches, because one of the best unknown secrets is that people come to Orlando and after about a week they get sick of it and they're looking for a place to go.
About 3 days or so.
And when you come over here, you find you're pretty well amazed that you could get a hotel room for $279 on the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
And those are not the nicest, but we're getting now better hotels.
So let's build the point from there. Okay, so $279 a night times 7 is $2,000.
Yeah.
Right, so for $2,000 a week, you're actually going to be able to affordably get a lot of people that can afford that unit, right? So if that's $2,000 a week, and you get people in there 4 weeks a month, right? That's $8,000 a month. So to your formula earlier, is that worth $800,000?
Well, if it's $800,000, you've got to figure out your vacancy. And when you have annual rentals, you're probably going to have a real big vacancy or little vacancies. But if you can do weekly rentals, you have a bigger audience supply of people that will come in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you can go on any one of these cities and look on VRBO and Airbnb and find all these illegal rentals that they have. And, you know, very easy for the cities to crack down and find the rentals because they got pictures on them.
Right.
So,
and map dots.
So if you took every illegal rental up and down the beaches and you stopped them, which you could, then that would motivate people to buy more and more stuff here to build better hotels and all that. So, you know, there are so many things hidden underneath that make the Pinellas Barrier Island so profitable that the thing that drives me nuts as a real estate broker is that we have so many agents that work out of our offices on the beach, and we can't get them excited enough to work on the beach because they go over to Pinellas Park and they get some.
Well, but the reason they go over to Pinellas Park, devil's advocate, is because their friends are calling them, and it's easier to do business because it falls on their lap rather than going to hunt it. So I don't think anybody's hunting across the bridge. They're just getting business because it's easier for them because of their people that.
I understand that, and I don't say not to do it.
Right.
But what I do say is, make sure you live in the best house ever, and then go visit your poor friends sometime. But make sure that you focus on something that will have longevity for you in the next downturn. Or if the downturn never comes, then you will be, the appreciation of the houses will be so great in a resort area quicker than in a non-resort area. Houses don't go up much in a non-resort area, but they do go up in a resort area. And then when you have a market like we do with so many old people in it that own old houses that have to be torn down at some point, they don't make any sense for people to buy.
Right.
And that's really depressing if you own an old house on the mainland, because the land isn't worth any money. But here, that land is worth $30,000 a front foot, or $200,000 for a little lot not on the water.
Yeah.
So you can use that equity you have in your lot if you own one of these houses to build a new house.
Then you have cities that have the ability to rent everything out nightly and weekly too, which is an interesting play too.
Well, you play that one out because you're talking about Indian Rocks Beach.
Let's run numbers on that for a second, just for the investment twist. I could find the cheapest waterfront house in marginal condition, decent condition, livable, is about $450. You could still find here and there.
Yes.
The $500,000, right?
Right.
So if I were to buy a $450,000 house, I need to have a down payment, right? So if it's an investment property, at least 20% down.
Okay.
So that's $90,000, right? I'm gonna have to put down on that house. So we got $450,000. So we're gonna be financing $360,000,
Right.
right? And we're gonna get it at 5% interest right now. It's $18,000 divided by 12. So you got a $1,500 a month plus taxes, which would be about another $600. But so you're about $2,100-ish plus insurance. So you're gonna be about, call it $3,000 a month with the pool guy and the yard guy and the cable and everything. I'm just rounding numbers here.
Yeah.
Right. So $3,000 a month payment covers my whole nut on a $450,000 waterfront house. Right.
All right.
So now, what do I do with that? Because if you were in Orlando and you wanted to take a few days
Oh,
off,
you're saying that you're gonna support that house and
Can I
you don't
support
have all, well, use the simple formula, $450,000 you paid for it, what's 10% of that?
45 grand.
All right, so you gotta bring in $45,000 and that will cover your $3,000 a month plus bar money,
Yeah.
all right? So if you have to bring in $45,000 in a year,
How many weeks should I project?
well, we know that, and I think you agree, 80 to 85% of the beaches is occupancy in the last couple of years, 80 to 85%.
Yeah.
I'm playing 60%.
Okay.
60% is 30 weeks.
Okay.
So
So
let's
super
look at,
conservative number. So 30 weeks a year.
yeah, 30 weeks of the year. And now this is the model that I want to bring out to you. 30 weeks out of a year leaves how many weeks open?
3 months. 12 weeks.
Well, no, 22 weeks.
Yeah, 22 weeks. Yeah, there we go.
22 weeks. So you are going to bring in, you live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and you're getting, how much does the rent have to be? 30 weeks into 45,000.
$1,500 a week.
$1,500 a week.
Which is $200 a night, same as a hotel. But now you got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on the water.
Yeah, with a kitchen.
With a kitchen.
And a boat dock.
Yeah.
And no other
Kayaks
people.
Right.
Now, why wouldn't someone do that before renting a hotel room?
Yeah.
So now you got, and then somebody cancels, and you get a call and you say, hey, the next 2 weeks are open. And you say, Shirley, come on, let's jump on an airplane, go down and use our house.
Mm-hmm. Or, hey, your cousin just graduated from college, why don't you see if they want to go use it?
Yeah.
Right? So
You got 22 weeks out of the year free to use your house.
you get a free beach house.
Yeah. Now, disclaimer again. Remember, I'm saying 10% is going to cover 10% of what you pay for it. It's got to bring in at least that to even consider buying it.
Right.
Now, if you're going to pay 20% to a rental company to rent it, and you have an HOA on it of $1,000 a month, and you got to figure out all those things, and maybe 10% won't cover it, but then probably your rents will be a lot higher, and certainly your occupancy will be higher. Now, let's say the market goes to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 60% occupancy. In the worst market we've had in the last 4 recessions,
Not
we
gonna see
didn't
that.
drop down from 80% to 60%.
And we got hotels here doing 97% occupancy.
We actually
right
go
now.
up in a bad market because people say, I can't afford to do a damn thing, but
They don't go to Prague.
I'll run up my credit card and go rent something.
Yeah.
So I want to shake people when I see them and say, look, we have this money and you want to buy a house. Let's buy a house that has some return on it. And then you can keep it for 3 years and rent it out. And then while you check all the other little cities out and see which one you want to be in.
Yeah.
You can make a lifelong career out of this and make money and retire. And that's what we were just talking about with the little shop down the street.
Yeah.
We got a commercial shop that we can buy with 3 units, and we can convert the commercial shop into another unit or so.
Yeah.
Well, does it make any sense to sell candy out of a little store when you can sell, $2,000 a week for someone to come in and use the bathroom and the toilet
Right.
and
No.
cook in the place and walk across the street to the beach?
Yeah. Yeah, no, not at all. So there's opportunities to basically have a free beach house.
Yeah, now what if we took the 17 little communities and we could write down 10 things that each one has that the other community doesn't have? And what if we really modeled that, and we developed a franchise called Reddington Beach and a franchise called Indian Rocks Beach and Paso Grill and Sunset Beach and all, and have them each have a distinct flavor to them. Do you think people would ever come down and say, we're staying here for a week, let's go and see how many of the 27 little cities we can have?
Yeah, let's go
Most
run a golf
people
cart and cruise around.
they can't even identify them.
Yeah, you're right.
And we have free beach rides. I mean,
Right.
you can get on a little cart and they'll take you to all of them, or you get on the trolley.
For a couple bucks, or rent a golf cart or a scooter, or walk.
So what if all the people that own places right now knew about the advantages of turning them into an investment property?
Or if you're sitting on a passive investment anywhere else, throw it into something that you can use and you can play. Like one of the properties we were just looking at, it's ugly. You know what's great about ugly? You can make it pretty.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that long to do. It takes some paint and some creativity and some trips to IKEA, and you got it pretty and not very expensive.
Well, look at the one that we have under contract with the 9 little units.
Yeah.
9 little units. We're in the process of going to the city to see what we can build on it. We're pretty sure we can build 9 new units.
Sometimes.
But why should we want to? The investor has some properties in Tampa that don't bring him much money, but they'll bring him a lot of money in this. So he can buy that thing, which he got a good price for. He can rent it for 2 or 3 years, and then he has the option to build up. And a lot of other people are building up. Talking to Treasure Island this morning, she said she's going nuts because of all the development in Treasure Island, and Treasure Island has been pretty much anti-development.
It's on hold, yeah.
And it's not now. And she changed her whole mind. We're looking about another 9 unit thing. I had the owner in and talking about what we could do, and she said, I'm going to work real hard to get you to be able to get more units on it and all that stuff, because they're seeing that they're going to be a lot more prosperous when they get the bed taxes and stuff from better units.
This city too has been amazing turnaround as
This
far
city.
as realizing how being pro-growth, controlled growth is a good thing for everybody. And we're getting great sales traction on the project right here around the corner. Right, that's going to change the whole face of this whole beach, right? With new things to do.
So what if you were a real estate agent? What could you do with what we just talked about to develop your career?
A couple things. Number one, find the inventory, because it makes sense to buy this stuff. It just does. There's
How many people that own a piece of property on the beaches know the things that we've been talking about right now about their property? Because we are talking about all the property.
not many. I mean, it's amazing to me the little beach houses that people rent out for $1,000 a month for annual.
Yeah.
Right? And you see it all over the place. And I mean, efficiencies for $450 a month. Just talking to a guy who's got a little efficiency, $450 a month. That's across the street from the beach, a month, with the ability to go weekly, where you can get that $150 a night or $100 a night. That's $700 a week, right? That's $2,800 a month versus $450 a month. There's so much arbitrage out there right now, but you need to know where you're going. You need to know what to look for, and you need to be smart.
Let's put your ass on the line. You got a little house. You think you can get $550 for it?
Yeah, I'm selling it.
All right. Let's take that house and see if it was in Indian Rocks Beach on the water.
Oh, yeah.
And if it could be, what would happen? $550,000. We need
55 grand a year.
$55,000 a year.
All right.
All right. 30 weeks into 50,000.
1,800.
55,000. 1,800. No, not a week.
1,500 a week.
30 weeks into 55,000.
Yeah. 1,800.
1,800 a week. How many bedrooms?
3 bedrooms, 2 bath.
3 bedrooms, 2 baths. So it's like 3 hotel rooms.
Mhm.
Got a kitchen,
Yeah.
got a dock,
Yeah.
got a hot tub,
A tiki hut.
a tiki hut. So
$260 a night.
$260 a night, and you have 3 hotel rooms, and the average hotel rooms is $260 a night.
Per room.
So you're getting 3.
At least 2, yeah, 2.
So you get 2. So people would much rather rent yours than
Right.
another one.
Now you can't legally do nightlies in that town.
No, but you can.
Right.
So therefore, the $550,000 might be better for you to sell that and to buy the same house up in Indian Rocks
Exactly
Beach.
right. Yeah.
Now, when you look at open rentals for everybody, there's going to be a period of down rental time when everybody tries to do it and doesn't realize that it's not a lot of fun. So you're going to go through a recessionary cycle, even though Indian Rocks Beach turned into a short-term rental place.
Because until, caveats here. Like here in Madeira Beach, we spent a lot of time and energy and money in this town, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make it a place that you want to be. And what's cool about like the project we just drove by Madeira Bay right down the beach, and we just sold one of the most recent sale last night to $389,000 for a condo unit.
Yeah.
And that condo unit will bring in, the past history is showing about $4,700 a month, right? So 4,700 times 12, that's $56,000 a year.
No, take my conservative figure of 60% occupancy, because we're not claiming,
Right.
for
So
sure you can get that.
4,700 times 12, 300, yeah, $35,000.
Yeah, so cash flows.
Mhm.
And they can use it.
They can use it when it's not there. That's at 60% occupancy, which is no way it'll ever be that low. Plus, you have stuff to do. So why these are selling well is because there's stuff to do. We were talking, you can go to a different restaurant every day, different bar every night, go fishing, go parasailing, go boating, go snorkeling, go jet skiing. Every day something different. And, and a nice beach right on site too, right across the street. So these towns have to create stuff to do, or else there's no reason to come around on vacation, because there's only so much time you can sit, right, on a piece of sand. It's cool to chill, but you're going to want to at some point get some stimulation. So that's where you see some 40,000 square foot of retail coming up here in Madeira Beach. It's going to have shops and restaurants and bars and entertainment and music and cigar places and swim up pool bars and those type of things that are not here now. So the more of that stuff comes to these areas, the more attractive they will be. Because if every house in Indian Rocks Beach went for sale for rent nightly tonight, there's not enough bodies to come fill them.
No.
So to your point, you've got to figure out which town has the draws for vacationers. And to that point, every town's a little different. You've got some people that would be perfectly happy to sit and not talk to anybody for an entire week. You got certain people that would go apeshit crazy if they didn't see somebody within an hour, right? And you've got everything in between that. So you got to also consider which town do you want to be and who are you catering to, and what is your marketing strategy for those people too.
Well, we have a model called Downtown St. Pete.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did was they built it and they will come. So they did a bunch of restaurants and bars and started building hotels and condos.
Brought in a university.
Brought in a university and art things and a museum and all the other stuff. And ironically, the 17 little towns all have little mini downtown St. Pete's that they've have done nothing to. And the only one that is doing something to, besides Clearwater, and Clearwater had a lot of land around that they developed, and they were pretty
Clearwater
smart
Beach,
in
yeah.
doing that. That's the one that everyone loves to hate, because they say, I don't want to be another Clearwater. But none of these 17 or 16 towns, not counting Clearwater, can be that, because there isn't that much stuff. You just have the cute little houses that you have to build up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put new houses and make them storm-proof, and you can take the stores and put a new face on them and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And take all these little towns and make them more profitable, which will bring more people in. So the opportunities for someone that lives here in order to, make money,
Mm-hmm.
and someone that doesn't live here to come down here and buy something that's cheap right now and work out of their house or whatever it has to be. When we have to get the message out how inexpensive stuff is, which will cause another cycle to make things be more expensive
Right,
as
yeah.
more people come in and buy it. but let's grab it now. And, all my talk about recessions and all that stuff, it doesn't matter for the beaches. In fact, the recession goes and the prices will come down. They won't come down as much on the beach as they will on the inland.
And they go down last and come back first.
Yeah, they do. And people come and use them if you do have hotel rooms and vacation rentals and stuff like that. They're so depressed to being in a recession, they come and vacation. I found that, living in Miami for 20 years.
You know what I think is going to be pretty interesting, and I'm getting into the research on this now, getting deeper into the research on it. What I think is going to be fun is take one of these houses, and with the blockchain technology and everything, the way that it's coming around right now, I'm pretty sure pretty soon we'll be able to tokenize a house, and then be able to sell pieces of that house to many people at any time, and make them liquid. You want to talk about if you had a little bit of money and wanted to buy a piece of this action but couldn't afford the $500,000 house?
The blockchain concept.
The blockchain tokenization of real estate is going to be something in resort towns. I think it's going to go nuts and be kind of fun. So we'll bring that out as we get a little closer to keep doing that. So it's just fun. So moral of the story is what? Should you suck it up, take the risk, and buy something? Or should you wait? Is the market too high? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Does it matter? What should I do?
Well, I say it's a great time to sell, a crummy time to buy, unless we talk to you and ask you some questions on why you're buying, when you're buying, how you're buying. Just had someone the other day come in and they needed she wants to move down in 3 years and wanted a $150,000 house on the beach that she could live in. And we went through a whole cycle of saying, here's what happens on the beach. You're going to have to pay $300 for that thing. You can go inland and you can buy it for $150,000, $175,000. But you're getting no income over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Where if you buy this one for $300, you got 30 weeks out of a year when you're frustrated being a nurse up north. You come down and use it. It's going to appreciate faster. It's going to cost you more money, but it's not really, because you're getting with 60% occupancy enough to pay all the bills.
Yeah.
And it was wow. And if we can get that wow factor and make it make sense, it's a great time to buy. And we have a lot of properties that we can buy that will cash flow.
Even there's some inexpensive ones too. Like you can buy, they're little 400 square foot little rooms, but you could still buy one of those.
Well, how big is the hotel room? 200 feet.
200 square feet. Yeah, you could buy a hotel room in some of these places for under 200 grand still. Right? Few and far between, right? But then you start putting those into motion, and that's a good way to start, as long as it's legal, right? And as long as you make it attractive, and it's pictures, it's marketing, it's making it look good.
Now, real simple investment would be, you have an old house on the beach, you tear it down, build a brand new house on the beach. That makes it one of the 25% that are elevated. That'll sell for more money. So it would make, if you're retired and you're hanging around, you could build your own house on the beach and make a profit on it that would be much higher than selling your old crappy house that's sitting on the ground. But
if you're buying it as a rental, you don't really care, because people are happy with it being on the ground.
There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can make money if you own property here, by converting it over, by selling it and buying another property. You have to talk to someone that knows what the hell they're doing, and people don't know what they're doing unless they hang around in an area that they can learn what they're doing, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we're doing on Real Beach Talks. So we pulled another one out, didn't we, this week?
That's right. Reach out if we can help you. We're happy just to give you guidance. Work with us or not work with us, we're going to help you out. So check it out. Come buy something. Life's too short. Buy the beach house. Chill and relax and go noodling. It's noodle weather again.
Noodling for the first time on Saturday in the year.
We'll be joining you this weekend with Kai.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Bye.